About 2 weeks ago, I made a video discussing my fan-made roster for Marvel vs. Capcom 4. If you haven't seen that video yet, I would recommend going and watching it now, as in this video, I'll be talking about the DLC characters and stages for that game. The base roster had 52 fighters, and so for the DLC, I chose 7 from Marvel and 7 from Capcom. As Marvel comes first in the title, I'll start with my Marvel picks. Kicking off this list with one of the coolest Marvel heroes, we have Moon Knight. I chose Moon Knight due to his great design and excellent moveset possibilities. He would play similar to Batman in Injustice, because he could throw out his tridents as projectiles and use his staff for close range similar to Gambit. Another wanted addition is Juggernaut. He's not been included in the MVC series since Marvel vs. Capcom 2, and so he definitely deserves to come back. He would obviously be a grappler, specialising in throwing and breaking his opponents hand to hand, but he would be lacking in ranged attacks. I wanted an X-Men character for the DLC, and it was between Jubilee and Nightcrawler, but eventually I settled on Jubilee. She would attack using her fireworks, so she would be a zoner, utilising many different types of ranged attacks to keep her opponents away from her. X-Men 97 really showed me how cool of a character Jubilee can be if done right. The Spot may seem like an odd inclusion, but I think he would be perfect for this game. He's relevant in Marvel right now because of Across the Spider-Verse, and rewatching this film made me realise how well his powers could translate into MVC. He would use his portals in many different ways to trick opponents with teleports, projectile reflectors, and more. If I could have added one more Marvel fighter to the base roster, I would have chosen Scarlet Witch. She's very well known in Marvel right now, and her chaos magic would be so fun to use in a fighting game. Her list of special moves would be almost endless, and because of this, she would be hard to learn but rewarding to master fighter. Venom: The Last Dance is coming out very soon, and the main villain of that game is going to be Null. I don't know how Sony is going to do this, but regardless of how good the film is going to be, Null is now on the map for more Marvel fans. His playstyle in a Marvel vs. Capcom game would be so fun and chaotic. For example, he could have the ability to send symbiotes across the stage to his opponents, and he could use All Black as a melee weapon. For the last Marvel character on the full roster, it was between Blade and Daredevil. I spent quite a long time debating this, but I did settle on Blade. This is because of the new film in the works and the possible interactions with other fighters. Yes, Blade would play amazingly, but the real reason I want him here is to see his interactions with Capcom characters such as Morrigan and Dante. Now, moving on from the Marvel side to the Capcom DLC choices. Starting with M. Bison. I originally had a different Street Fighter rep in this slot, but after playing as Bison in Street Fighter 6, I changed my mind. Not only this, but for the DLC story, I couldn't get the idea out of my head of a symbiote Bison leading Null's army. As badly as I wanted to include Proto Man on the base roster, I just knew I had to save him for the DLC. He would play sort of similar to Mega Man, but with a bunch of shield-based attacks and blocks. I would also want to see a cutscene in the DLC story of Proto Man fighting side by side with Captain America. I wanted another Resident Evil character on the roster, and Lady Dimitrescu was the perfect inclusion. She would be a slow fighter, but with a lot of high damage attacks, such as a powerful swipe with her claws. For another Darkstalkers rep, to me the clear choice was John Talbane. Just like the other Darkstalkers fighters on the roster, there isn't a lot to say about his move list, because it would be mostly the same as his one in Darkstalkers. From one Capcom dog to another, Amaterasu represents the Akami games. She is one of the most wanted Capcom fighters to return from MVC 3, and her moveset would mostly just be the same as it is in that game. From Devil May Cry, Lady would be added as a DLC fighter. She would be a gunner and use many types of firearms in her moveset. She would basically play like if you translated her from DMC into a fighting game. As the final character on the roster, Miles Edgeworth would make an appearance. His physical attacks would be similar to Phoenix Wright's, but he would have a wildly different list of specials. I feel like most people underestimate the popularity of Miles in Ace Attorney, and I think he definitely deserves to be represented elsewhere. Those are all of the DLC characters that would be added to the game, but the video isn't over yet. I also want to briefly mention the stages I think we could see in this game. Starting with the Marvel stages, Asgard, Avengers Tower, New York City, Planet Titan, the Sanctum Sanctorum, the Statue of Liberty, the Quantum Realm, Wakanda, Xavier Mansion, Null's Throne, a stage based off of the Spider-Verse, the Tomb, and Westview. Now the Capcom stages, we have Metro City, the Courtroom, Baker Mansion, Fortuna Castle, Brazil from Darkstalkers, Devil May Cry, Nishal, Mesoporta, Wily Castle, England from Darkstalkers, Enma's Hollow, the Cave of Nago, and Castle Dimitrescu. Those are all of the stages in my hypothetical Marvel vs. Capcom 4. Sorry for all the mispronunciations, and the final 4 stages I listed for both Marvel and Capcom would be DLC. Thanks for watching, and if you wanted to like and subscribe, that would help me out a lot. I'll see you next time.